Let's really get into Chloe's story.
Okay.
So the story centers on Chloe. She's 22, a political science major at State University. And she describes herself as maybe a little too serious, often focused on studies more than the social scene.
Right. Buried in textbooks, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Then about 7 months before things really kick off, Liam enters her life. What was it about him? How did their relationship start?
Well, from Chloe's account, Liam was the classic charmer, witty musician, possessing that kind of effortless cool that gets noticed.
Okay.
He was seemingly everything she felt. She wasn't spontaneous, outgoing.
Mm.
But what's really striking is how fast he created this deep, almost, overwhelming connection.
That's so.
Little things, big things. He'd show up, say, with her favorite coffee, exactly how she liked it. He'd remember tiny details she'd mentioned in passing. He'd listen, really listen, when she went on her rants about social justice. These gestures, they're not just polite, they're textbook examples of what's often called love bombing.
Love bombing. Okay, that's a term we hear sometimes. Can you break that down a bit? Why is it so, effective?
Absolutely. Love bombing is this intense, over-the-top display of affection and attention, usually right at the beginning of a relationship. It's so potent because, it taps directly into really fundamental human needs, the need for validation, for connection, to feel truly seen.
Mm-hmm.
So by showering someone with such focused adoration, the person doing it quickly creates this powerful, almost addictive emotional bond, and that rapid escalation, it can make the recipient incredibly vulnerable later on to push-pull dynamics.
Mm.
They end up constantly chasing that initial high, that intense feeling of being adored.
Right.
For Chloe, Liam kind of pulled her out of her academic shell, introduced this spontaneity she maybe craved, and this illusion of a deep, fast connection.
Yeah.
It makes what happens later even more jarring, because he clearly put effort into crafting this specific, highly appealing image of himself.
And those intense moments where the connection felt so real, they were often followed by something unsettling. You mentioned a perpetually shifting tide.
That's exactly how she describes it.
Yeah.
It was a pattern. Extreme highs, then these really extreme lows. Liam would suddenly just pull back, disappear for a day, maybe two. The excuses were always vague, kind of dismissive, band stuff, family emergency.
Huh?
During those times, her texts, unanswered, calls, straight to voicemail. Then just as suddenly, he'd reappear, full of apologies, charmed back on full blast, often with an explanation so convincing that Chloe writes she often felt irrational for even questioning him. It's that classic push-pull dynamic,
Yeah.
Keeps you off balance, always seeking reassurance.
Wow. How did that affect her internally? I mean, what was going on in her head during those times?
Oh, the account really highlights this immense internal struggle, this cognitive dissonance she was experiencing. She actively tried to rationalize it, telling herself, it's just guy stuff, or he's a free spirit, I'm too structured, things like that.
Trying to make it make sense.
Exactly. But underneath it all, there was always, as she puts it, that tiny, insistent voice whispering that something wasn't right. This constant back and forth created huge anxiety, huge uncertainty for her. She desperately wanted to believe in the good Liam, the romantic, attentive one who showed up sometimes.
Right.
Despite the consistent, unsettling evidence that there was this other side, this disappearing act, this internal battle where she's basically pushing down her own gut feelings to hold on to the connection. That's crucial. It shows the emotional toll this relationship was taking long before the big crisis hit.
And that constant push and pull, that battle, it inevitably leads somewhere. There's a pivotal moment for Chloe. Tell us about that Tuesday night.
Right. It's late on a Tuesday. Her roommate's asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Chloe's mind is just racing. She describes it like a frantic hamster on a wheel. And then comes the blaring alarm bell, as she calls it. She realizes she's 5 days late.
Okay.
And her cycle, always like clockwork. So this isn't just a minor worry. It signals something potentially huge. The narrative talks about this cold dread, heavy and suffocating, settling in her stomach, a terrifying certainty about what this could mean. It's not just a missed period. It's this potential seismic shift in her very predictable world. And she recognizes it with this frightening clarity, this overwhelming fear.
That sounds terrifying. In that moment, facing that dawning realization, she decides to tell Liam. How does she do it? What's the weight behind that communication?
Yeah, she chooses what she herself calls the coward's way out. Or maybe she reflects just the modern way of delivering inconvenient truths. A text message.
Just a text.
Just a text. She describes her fingers shaking, the huge effort it took just to type each word, and the message itself, it's devastatingly short. No demands, no accusations, just raw fear. It reads, I'm 5 days late. I'm scared.
Wow. 5 words.
5 words. The description of her shaking fingers, the effort. It really conveys the emotional weight behind that simple text. It's like this confession whispered into the digital void, right? Laying bare her deepest fear to the person she believes should share that burden. It's an appeal, really. A desperate reach for partnership in a terrifying moment.
So she sends it, I'm 5 days late, I'm scared. What happens immediately after she hits send? Digitally, I mean. And how does that little read receipt become so agonizing?
Agonizing is the right word. She hits send. Here's the click echoing like a gunshot in the quiet room. The little bubble pops up. Delivered. Her heart's pounding. She's just waiting. Seconds feel like hours. And then the worst possible outcome appears on her screen.
The read receipt.
The read receipt. It just sits there. And it becomes this cruel beacon mocking her in the dark. That's her phrase. It's this silent, undeniable proof of his immediate withdrawal, his chilling indifference. The emotional impact she describes is visceral. Her stomach drops. That cold dread just intensifies.
It's more than just knowing he saw it.
Exactly. In our digital world, a read receipt isn't just confirmation of delivery. It can be this profound statement, or lack thereof. It carries the full weight of someone's presence, or in this case, their immediate, cold, deliberate absence. It confirms he saw her raw vulnerability and chose silence, chose to do nothing. It's this uniquely modern form of abandonment, brutal in its simplicity, its instantaneous finality.
So the night passes, she's clutching her phone, waiting. Morning comes, bringing, as she says, a fresh wave of despair. What's the focus of her despair in those hours? Is it just the potential pregnancy?
What's really devastating here, and what the account emphasizes, is how quickly her focus shifts. Yes, the prospect of an unplanned pregnancy is terrifying in itself. But her fear about that, about a potential life, is almost immediately overshadowed by the crushing weight of his silence, his blatant rejection.
Wow.
It really speaks volumes about that fundamental human need for connection, for validation, especially when you're in crisis. His silence, his rejection, it cut deeper right then than even the fear of the unknown future.
Yeah.
It was the pain of just profound emotional abandonment hitting her full force.
And then his silence escalates into something more active. This digital erasure begins. How does that unfold?
Yeah, it's systematic. First, she tries calling him repeatedly. Initially, the calls just go straight to voicemail. Okay, maybe he's busy, maybe. But then on maybe the fifth try, something changes. She hears a click, then that cold, automated voice. The number you have dialed is not available.
He blocked her.
He blocked her. And this isn't just ignoring her anymore, right? This is a deliberate, active shutting down of communication. Slamming a door, no way back in. It's moving from avoidance into active, intentional exclusion.
And it doesn't stop there.
No.
Oh.
2 days later, she gets what she calls the final, undeniable confirmation. She logs on Instagram, searches for his profile, and it's gone. Completely untraceable. He blocked her there too. And on Facebook, Snapchat, everything.
That level of systematic erasure, it sounds incredibly cold, calculated. What does that kind of act mean in our world today, where we're so connected?
It is brutal, absolutely brutal, in its coldness, its efficiency. It feels designed not just to end things, but to actively invalidate her reality, to make her feel like their shared history. Her very presence in his life was just nothing, a fabrication.
Like she never existed to him.
Exactly. This calculated vanishing leaves the person on the receiving end with this deep, disorienting sense of unreality, of unworthiness. It cuts off any possibility of contact, any chance for accountability. You're just left completely isolated, gasping. It's a profound act of, frankly, emotional violence, using the tools meant for connection to enforce absolute disconnection. And it leaves this really insidious kind of emotional wound.
And this leads Chloe to a realization about Liam, doesn't it? Something clicks. She sees a pattern she hadn't fully acknowledged before.
Yes, precisely. A chilling realization. She remembers, like a breadcrumb dropped that she should have noticed sooner, that he always disappeared when things started getting serious.
Like what?
Like when she brought up being exclusive or mentioned maybe meeting his parents, he'd pull back them too.
Yeah.
And she realizes this is the ultimate, most devastating version of that same disappearing act.
Right.
Because this time, the serious thing wasn't just a conversation topic. It was a potential human life. This is a critical turning point in how she understands him. His pattern wasn't just being free-spirited or commitment phobic in a general sense. It was this deeply ingrained inability or maybe unwillingness to face real responsibility. And the stakes here were so incredibly high a potential life, which just amplified his avoidance mechanism. It reveals this need to escape when truly challenged. It's the ultimate escape, as she puts it, because the consequences here are permanent, life-altering, and he clearly wanted absolutely no part of that.
Even with that dread, that realization, the account mentions a tiny, desperate part of her still hoped. Maybe it wasn't true, but her body was sending signals.
Yeah, denial is powerful, isn't it? While her mind might have been clinging to some sliver of hope, her body was making things increasingly clear. The nausea, she writes, had been a whisper at first, then a growing roar. Fatigue was like a constant weight. But the missed period, that remained the terrifying confirmation, the one signal that couldn't be rationalized away or ignored. Her physical symptoms were undeniable, even as her mind fought for a different outcome.
So, with the physical signs mounting, she has to know for sure. She makes this trip to the CVS on University Avenue, alone. Describe that for us.
Oh, that scene is portrayed as just profoundly lonely and anxiety-filled. Her hands are clammy, heart's hammering, the bright fluorescent lights, the spinning aisles of the drugstore. She feels like everyone can see her panic, like her crisis is written all over her face. She's actively avoiding eye contact.
Yeah.
She grabs a 2-pack just to be sure. Then, hedging her bet, she grabs another brand just in case. That ordinary drugstore aisle becomes this stage for immense internal turmoil. She braces herself for a truth she both fears and desperately needs confirmed. Utterly alone in that public space, preparing for this potentially life-altering moment.
She gets back to the dorm. Her roommate, Maya, is out. She locks the bathroom door, hands shaking, mind racing with what-ifs. She puts the tests on the sink. The wait, she says, feels like an eternity. And then the lines.
Yeah, the description is just stark. 2 lines. 2 clear, undeniable pink lines on both tests, positive. It's the definitive, unyielding answer. No more ambiguity.
And her reaction?
Immediate physical collapse. Her legs give out. She slides down the cold tile wall, clutching the tests. A gut-wrenching sob tears out of her. She feels utterly alone, utterly adrift. That sterile dorm bathroom, usually just a place for brushing teeth, suddenly becomes the backdrop for the biggest, most terrifying revelation of her life. It's this moment of profound, irreversible change. The undeniable end of one life and the terrifying, unknown start of another.
Eventually, her roommate Maya comes back, hears her crying, gets her to open the door. How does Maya react? What does that support mean to Chloe right then?
Maya is instantly Chloe's rock. Her reaction is immediate, visceral. A gasp, yes. But then just this tight, comforting hug. Her warmth is such a stark contrast to the cold dread Chloe's been feeling. Maya just listens without judgment. As Chloe manages to choke out the whole story, Liam's ghosting, the positive tests. And then Maya whispers fiercely, "We'll figure this out. Together." That promise, that simple word together, is the first real lifeline Chloe has in this crisis. It's the first crack in that profound isolation she felt. It's the beginning of this crucial support system.
So the reality is sinking in, and the word abortion starts to hang in the air, described as heavy and inescapable. It's presented as the, quote, practical choice, the logical choice, right? To preserve her plans, her independence. Maya gently lays out the options, the clinics, supporting whatever Chloe decides. What's going on inside Chloe as she considers this?
This really highlights the immense pressure, the stark reality of her situation. Rationally, yeah, for a 22-year-old college student, abortion seems like the most logical path. But what's so moving here is Chloe's deep internal response. Despite all the practical arguments, she writes, something inside me, a tiny, insistent whisper, a feeling I couldn't articulate, recoiled. She describes this profound sadness at the idea of ending the pregnancy. It wasn't about morality or external judgment for her. It was this powerful, innate feeling of connection. This tiny potential life, as terrifying and unplanned as it was, felt like a part of me, a part of Liam, a connection she just couldn't bring herself to sever. Ending it felt like extinguishing a fragile spark, something that went against a deeper intuitive knowing inside her.
So even with all the fear, the loneliness, even with logic pointing one way, she makes her decision. What is it? And what does that tell us about her at this point?
It's an act of incredible personal strength, really. And trusting her intuition, it's not based on external logic or what others might expect. It's rooted in that deep-seated, hard-to-articulate connection she felt. She knew, despite everything, the fear, the loneliness, that she was going to keep this baby. Wow. And this is a huge pivot, right? From maybe seeking external validation earlier to now relying on this internal conviction. It's a powerful moment of self-actualization, even amidst such vulnerability. It's the first major step she takes in reclaiming her own story, choosing a path that defied the seemingly logical one. It really speaks to that human capacity to connect with something unquantifiable, to make choices based on an innate sense of self that transcends practical arguments. Her internal compass took the lead.
Making that decision is one thing. Now she has to tell her mother, which she describes as feeling even harder than dealing with the positive tests, like a betrayal of her hopes for Chloe's future. How does that conversation go?
Yeah, she drives home to Willow Creek, her small hometown, feeling like a kid again, about to confess something awful. But her mother's reaction is, well, it's profound. There's initial shock, yes, a deafening silence. But then what Chloe sees on her mother's face is sadness, deep and profound. Not anger, never anger.
That's huge.
It is. That immediate response of love and sorrow for Chloe and the difficult path ahead, rather than disappointment in her, becomes her lifeline. Her mom just quietly says, "Okay, sweetie, we'll figure this out. We always do." That unwavering support, that unconditional love just anchors Chloe. Her mother becomes this quiet pillar of strength, providing a sanctuary that Chloe absolutely needed and relied on in the months that followed.
This new reality obviously meant big changes. She drops out of the semester, calls it a small death, acknowledging the end of that chapter. And she also disappears from social media. Why does she do that? Kind of mirroring Liam, but for different reasons.
Right. It's a fascinating parallel from a completely different place. For Chloe, it's about self-preservation, shielding herself. She couldn't bear seeing posts of friends living their carefree college lives, while hers was so drastically altered. And the thought of accidentally stumbling across anything about Liam, unbearable.
So it's this quiet retreat, a way to process, protect yourself during immense vulnerability, and start building her new reality away from the noise, comparison, and potential triggers of social media.
But the internet finds ways to bring things to you anyway. One afternoon, just scrolling through Maya's Instagram feed, an innocent group photo from a party pops up. And there he is, Liam.
Oh, yeah.
Arm around a pretty blonde girl Chloe doesn't recognize. And he looks happy, utterly carefree, as if his life hadn't been irrevocably altered. What does seeing that do to Chloe? It's described as a profound gut punch. A stark visual slap in the face. The jarring contrast between her reality life completely changed, carrying their child, and his apparent reality, unburdened, joyful, already moved on. It doesn't just hurt. The account says it fuels this simmering resentment, a quiet resolve, and it plants a new, unsettling thought. Was his ghosting just about fear, or was there something darker, more calculated at play? That carefree image becomes this catalyst, shifting her from passive despair towards this quiet, burning need for accountability, a need for the universe somehow to balance the scales.
The story then jumps forward 6 months, months that she says flew by, or rather they dragged. How has her daily life changed in that time?
It really underscores how all-encompassing this new reality is. The first trimester nausea is gone, replaced by a visibly growing belly. Her focus has completely shifted. College textbooks are swapped for baby books. Late-night study sessions are replaced by, late-night cravings, nursery planning. Her mother turning the spare room into this calm, pale yellow nursery crib. Tiny clothes becomes this powerful symbol of her mom's quiet strength, her unwavering love. It wasn't just a room changing, it was this testament to the solid nurturing support system anchoring Chloe through this massive transformation. Her whole identity was shifting towards motherhood.
As the due date gets closer, her mom suggests a baby shower. Small, just close family, best friends, a chance to celebrate. Chloe has mixed feelings. Part of her shrinks from the idea, another part longs for that normalcy, that unadulterated joy. The guest list is forming, people who truly care. And then her mom asks, tentatively, should I send one to Liam? Chloe's immediate reaction.
Oh, it's immediate and visceral. A hard no. Her jaw tightens, hands clench.
Yeah.
She tells her mom, absolutely not. He doesn't get to waltz back in. He doesn't even know this baby exists. It's pure, raw self-preservation at this point. Protecting her fragile peace, her new reality. No open doors, no way for him to disrupt what she's painstakingly building.
But the idea, once it's out there, it starts to work on her. Not out of bitterness, she clarifies, or revenge, or even hope he'll come back. Something else starts stirring. What's happening?
This is such a crucial pivot in her emotional journey. That nagging feeling, it wasn't about wanting him back or even wanting to hurt him. It coalesced into what she identifies as a need for accountability, a quiet, burning need for him to face the consequences of his actions.
Right.
This baby, growing inside her, was this tangible, undeniable truth he'd literally run away from. He fled the potential, the text message, her fear. But she starts thinking, he can't run from the reality forever. She realizes he deserved to know, not because she needed anything from him, but because he needed to be confronted with the life he'd so callously abandoned.
It's not about reconciliation.
Not at all. It's about reclaiming her narrative, delivering the truth he refused to receive months ago. It becomes this strange kind of closure for her, a powerful act of agency in a situation where she initially felt completely powerless. This internal shift is huge. She's moving from being the victim of his ghosting to actively orchestrating a reckoning for her own peace and for the truth of her own experience.
So a few days later, she goes back to her mom. Calmer now, more resolute. You know what, Mom? Send him one, but not just an invite. And there's this silent understanding between them. That initial no becomes a quiet yes, but infused with this steely resolve. How does she plan this reckoning?
The planning is meticulous, fascinatingly so. She emphasizes it was precise and deliberate, not about drama, it was about fact, about impact, presenting undeniable truth. So her mom would send the formal baby shower invitation, polite, generic address to the Liam's last name family. Knowing his mother, described as sweet and unsuspecting, would likely open it. But separately, time to arrive around the same time would be another package. Small, unassuming, meant only for his eyes. And the description of that package is telling.
What?
Wrapped in plain white paper, tied with a simple, almost clinical black ribbon. No pastel bows, no glitter. This was not a celebration for him, this was a reckoning. Every detail feels intentional, designed for maximum impact, minimum emotional drama from Chloe's side. It communicates gravity, letting the facts speak.
Inside that plain white box, she puts 3 carefully chosen items. What's the first one?
The first is an ultrasound photo, and not just any grainy image, but a clear, detailed shot of my baby at 20 weeks, undeniably human, undeniably alive. This, she says, was proof, irrefutable, and beautiful. It's a knockout punch, right? Transforming the abstract idea of pregnancy into a tangible, living reality he absolutely could not deny or argue away. It's visual truth.
Undeniable. And the second item?
Second, a tiny baby onesie. Simple, gender-neutral white with little elephants on it. This was the physical representation of the future he had chosen to run from. The onesie is so symbolic. It's not accusatory in itself, just this innocent item representing the everyday reality of parenthood, the nurturing, the domesticity that he forfeited. It quietly underscores the chasm between his carefree life and the tangible consequences Chloe was embracing. A quiet, powerful accusation.
And the final piece, the centerpiece,
Yeah.
the letter. Not an emotional plea, not an angry rant. How did she approach that?
It was crafted to be calm, measured, factual. It laid out the exact timeline. The date of her missed period, the positive tests, how many weeks pregnant she was, the date of the ultrasound in the picture, just laying out the facts dispassionately, logically. But the absolute crucial detail, the checkmate move, was including a screenshot of his last text to me and my 5 days late message with the read receipt glaringly visible.
Wow, the receipt.
Yes. That single image made his culpability, his knowledge, his deliberate ignoring of her fear irrefutable. It stripped away any possible deniability. It confronted him with his own deliberate act of ghosting at the most critical moment. This whole package was just this masterclass in objective, undeniable truth-telling. She wasn't looking for a dialogue. She was delivering a verdict based on cold, hard facts.
The tension waiting for that package to land must have been immense. She timed the mailing carefully. How did she picture the scene unfolding at Liam's house?
Her imagination of it is so vivid in the account. She pictures Mrs. Miller, Liam's sweet, unsuspecting mother, finding this slightly thicker plain white box with the regular mail. Confusion at first, maybe curiosity, then opening it. The gut punch of the contents. She sees the mom's brow furrowing at the ultrasound, confusion at the onesie, then her eyes landing on the letter, the timeline, the screenshot, and this dawning horror washing over her face.
Yeah.
It's a moment of truth, not just for Liam, but potentially for his whole family, right? Unraveling whatever facade he'd maintained. Chloe even imagines the inevitable phone call from Mrs. Miller to Liam, her voice trembling, demanding to know what was going on. She pictures Liam's initial casual denial, then his mother's voice cracking with disbelief, anger, and profound disappointment. That silent anticipation, just waiting for the explosion, must have been unbearable, but also, in a way, a reclaiming of control for Chloe.
The first call doesn't go to Chloe, though. It goes to her mom. It's Mrs. Miller, Liam's mother. Voice trembling, demanding answers. How does Chloe's mom handle that?
Chloe's mom, again, is just this rock. She stays calm and composed. She explains the situation gently, factually, but doesn't soften the details of Liam's abandonment. Chloe, listening from her room, hears snippets, hushed tones, then a raised voice. Eventually, a choked sob from Mrs. Miller. It paints this powerful picture of truth having its ripple effect. Mrs. Miller's sob isn't just shock, it's likely this deeper realization about her son, maybe shame, profound disappointment hitting home within his own family, all thanks to the undeniable facts Chloe presented.
An hour later, the phone rings again. Chloe's home phone this time. Her mom answers, then hands it to Chloe. Eyes intense, she just says, "It's him." Chloe describes her breath hitched, my heart hammered. This is it, the confrontation. How does Liam sound? What does he say?
This is the climax the narrative is built towards. You can feel the tension in "it's him." Chloe's now the one in control, not the one waiting in silence. Liam doesn't hold back. His voice, usually smooth, is now raw, laced with venom, and barely contained rage. And his first words, predictable, self-serving accusations. "What the hell is this, Chloe? You trying to trap me? Is this some sick game?" Immediately trying to flip it, make himself the victim. It perfectly exposes his inability to take responsibility.
And Chloe, after everything, how does she respond to that fury?
Remarkably, she meets his rage with this almost eerie calm, a quiet steeliness. Her reply is measured, powerful. "Trap you into what, Liam? Facing the consequences of your own actions." Boom. And she follows up, "You ghosted me. You blocked me. What did you expect?" Just laying out the facts of his own behavior. It puts him immediately on the defensive.
He must have been floored.
Yeah, he fumbles. His rage deflates for a second. Then he resorts to the next predictable defense.
I didn't know if it was real. I mean, how do I know it's even mine? The classic line, she calls it, the predictable, cowardly deflection, a desperate attempt to sow doubt, avoid responsibility even now, cornered by the evidence. It shows how ingrained his evasion is.
But Chloe was ready for that too. She had the proof. What was her counterpunch?
Oh, she was ready. Her voice rises just slightly, gaining that edge of steel, and she delivers it point by point. "You want to know how you know? Because I sent you the ultrasound, because I sent you the timeline, because I sent you the screenshot of the text message you read and never replied to, the one where I told you I was scared, the one that made you disappear."
Laying it all out, systematically listing the undeniable proof, leaving him absolutely nowhere to go. Especially emphasizing that screenshot, the read receipt, hitting him with his own deliberate act of abandonment right at the beginning. There's a brief, stunned silence on his end. The account says the weight of the undeniable proof finally seemed to penetrate. No more excuses. He's truly cornered.
And this is where it gets even darker, right? The conversation takes a chilling turn. What does he reveal when he's finally backed into that corner?
Yeah, this is what sends blood cold for Chloe. His voice changes, drops to a defeated mutter, but then it's laced with this chilling undercurrent of contempt. He spits out, "I knew it. I knew you'd try something like this. You were always too clingy, too serious. I knew you'd try to trap me into something I didn't want."
Whoa, he knew. He expected it.
Exactly. It wasn't just panic or fear of responsibility driving him back then. It was, she realizes, calculated evasion. This is the moment everything just clicks into place for her. The hot and cold, the disappearances, the charm, it all masked this cold, manipulative core. He hadn't just reacted, he'd anticipated something like this, viewed her as a potential trap to be escaped.
And then the full, ugly truth comes out.
Yes. In this bitter, furious outburst fueled by being exposed, cornered, he lets the rest slip. He admits he'd been cheating on her, consistently, for months, even before she sent that fateful text about being late.
Oh my God.
It's the final, devastating piece. His fear wasn't just about becoming a father. It was about being exposed, about his whole carefully constructed web of lies unraveling, that missed period text. It wasn't the crisis that made him flee. Horrifyingly, it was the perfect excuse he'd been waiting for, a way to make a clean break, escape a situation already complicated by his own infidelity. The source puts it starkly. He wasn't trapped by her. He was already being trapped in his own lies and using me as an escape hatch. It reveals this profound lack of empathy, this chilling willingness to inflict pain just for his own convenience, freedom from responsibility, no matter the cost to anyone else.
The call ends with another click. He hangs up again. But this time, the narrative says it didn't hurt. How did Chloe feel after that, after hearing all of that?
It's this incredibly powerful moment of emotional liberation. That final click, it didn't hurt. Instead, it felt like, and this is her powerful metaphor, the final definitive cutting of a cancerous cord. She finally had the answers. And the truth, as ugly and painful as it was, replaced that agonizing uncertainty that had plagued her for months. The cancerous cord metaphor perfectly captures the toxic nature of that connection. By cutting it, she reclaims her peace, her emotional autonomy. She didn't need anything from him anymore. That confrontation, however brutal, provided the ultimate devastating yet liberating closure.
After that call, this profound sense of calm washes over her. Fury, confusion, hurt, gone. Replaced by quiet, resolute strength. She knows she doesn't need him, doesn't want him involved. The answer's freed her. What's her final act in this exchange? The one that really reverses the power dynamic.
It's an incredible display of resilience, isn't it? From being ghosted and feeling utterly alone to this place of empowerment. Knowing the truth about his manipulation, while painful, freed her from self-blame, from false hope. Her final act is monumental. She sends him one last, short text message. You don't have to be involved, Liam. This baby and I will be just fine without you. Consider this your final communication from me.
Wow.
And then she blocks him. On everything. For good. That read receipt that once mocked her, irrelevant now, because she is the one closing the door permanently, severing that last digital thread, taking back control of her narrative, her life, asserting her independence, showing that her well-being, her child's well-being, are not dependent on him at all. It's the ultimate reclaiming of her power.
And throughout all this, her support system, her mom, Maya, they remain constant, right? Described as unwavering pillars. How important was that?
Oh, absolutely critical. Her mom and Maya held her hand, literally and figuratively, through prenatal appointments, anxiety attacks, morning sickness. Her mother's quiet wisdom really nails it when she says, "Some people walk away from what's hard, Chloe, but true strength is found in those who stay." It highlights that stark contrast, Liam's abandonment versus the steadfast love of the women in her life.
Yeah.
This community, including friends who threw her this beautiful, heartfelt baby shower, no drama, just joy, became the antithesis of the fear and loneliness she felt earlier. It's this powerful testament that while one person left, a strong, loving community embraced her, nurtured her strength. This network allowed her to move from victim to survivor, and ultimately to thrive.
And then the moment arrives. A crisp autumn morning. After a long labor, her daughter is born. A tiny, perfect human.
Right.
What was that like for Chloe?
The moment they placed her daughter on her chest, she says all the pain, the fear, the resentment towards Liam just faded into oblivion. She was here, she was real, and she was mine. It's the ultimate validation of her agonizing choice months before. The undeniable proof that the struggle led to this profoundly beautiful moment. In that connection, she knew she'd made the right choice, the only choice that truly mattered. Her daughter, Alara, becomes the most beautiful, profound truth she had ever known. The real start of her new narrative.
Choosing the name was easy, she says. Alara after her grandmother. Alara June. A deliberate choice, not honoring the guy who ran, but after the women who stayed. Tell us about the symbolism there.
It's deeply symbolic and so empowering. It's a conscious rejection of Liam's toxic legacy and a powerful embrace of the lineage of strong, nurturing women in her life. Her grandmother, Alara, who faced her own challenges with quiet dignity and taught unwavering love, represents the resilience Chloe herself found. So the name Alara signifies strength, legacy, and the fierce, protective love of women. Looking at her daughter, Chloe saw not a reminder of a past betrayal, but a beacon of hope, a testament to my own strength, and a living legacy of the women who stood by me. It's this profound act of self-definition, celebrating enduring feminine strength and love.
Okay, let's jump forward one last time, 1 year later. What does Chloe's life look like now?
It's described as one incredible, challenging, joy-filled year. Sleepless nights, yes, but also first smiles, the whole transformative journey of early motherhood. Alara's now a vibrant, curious toddler, her laughter filling their home. And Chloe. She's back in school, juggling motherhood and academics. Her life isn't just back on track, it's full, rich, and beautifully complicated. It paints this picture of a woman who hasn't just survived, she's absolutely thriving, building this beautiful life entirely on her own terms, completely independent of Liam, the ultimate success story of reclaiming her narrative.
And then completely out of the blue, a phone notification. An old, forgotten contact. Liam. A DM. After a year of silence, what's her immediate reaction?
What's truly remarkable here is her reaction, or rather the lack of a strong emotional one. There's no lurch in her stomach, no pain, no anger, just, she says, a faint flicker of curiosity. It shows how much healing has happened, how detached she is now from the trauma he caused. He simply doesn't have that power over her anymore. She could observe this from a place of quiet strength, emotional distance.
She opens it. It's a grainy, slightly blurry selfie of Liam. Next to him, held awkwardly, a tiny baby, a newborn. Liam's face looks tired, even a little shell-shocked. And below the picture, just 5 words. Can I meet my daughter? The irony.
Well, the irony is thick, isn't it? And undeniably bitter. After a year of silence, denying Alara's existence, accusing Chloe, now he wants to meet his daughter. The image of him looking shell-shocked with his own newborn suggests he's finally facing the reality he ran from with Chloe. As the source speculates, maybe this new baby finally forced him to confront his past, to realize the magnitude of what he had done, what he had abandoned. He's experiencing the consequences he imposed on her, a full circle, holding him accountable in a way he expertly avoided. It feels like a moment of almost cosmic justice.
So Chloe looks at the message, the photo of Liam and his baby. Then she looks across the room at her baby, Alara, happy, playing, giggling. Her hand hovers over the reply button. So many things she could say or do. What does she choose? What's the final act?
She doesn't reply. Her final act of power is quiet but profound. I simply left it on read.
Wow, left on read.
Exactly. The significance is huge. That scene receipt, Once that cruel beacon of his indifference towards her now becomes a symbol of my own quiet power, my unwavering resolve. She has nothing left to say to him, nothing to explain, nothing to demand. She chooses her peace, her daughter, her agency over any lingering need for his validation or involvement. Her final thought in the account sums it all up perfectly. I gave him the truth in a pink envelope. It's not my job to deliver it twice. My job is to raise my daughter, to build our beautiful life unburdened by his past choices. And that's exactly what I intended to do. She defines her own ending, leaving him exactly where he once left her seen, but unanswered, on read.
What an absolutely incredible journey from that profound vulnerability and abandonment to such undeniable strength and empowerment. The story, The Unsent Truth, A Reckoning, it really lays bare the different forms truth can take, doesn't it? And the immense strength we can find in support systems, the liberation in truly reclaiming your own narrative.
It really does.
Yeah.
And this narrative makes you think, doesn't it? About how we confront consequences, not just for others, but maybe for ourselves too.
Yeah.
It highlights those silent, unseen truths that shape lives and the power dynamics woven into communication or the deliberate lack of it.
Yeah.
It raises that question, what does it really mean to know something? And where's the real power? Is it in sharing knowledge? Deciding when and how it's shared? Or sometimes is it in withholding it? When does silence, which was used as a weapon against Chloe, become the shield she chooses to protect her own peace, her own hard-won reality?
That's a powerful thought to leave our listeners with. How often do we maybe unwittingly give others power over our story? And what's the profound freedom that comes when we deliberately, consciously take that power back?